Hello and welcome to another Happily Letter After tutorial. Today's tutorial is going to be a little more advanced, so if you're not comfortable or familiar with Procreate on the iPad Pro, I would highly recommend doing one of my other tutorials first and getting a little more comfortable and familiar with the program. This is going to be a bit of a longer tutorial, but I'm going to skip ahead for some of those steps to the next part so that it's not such a lengthy video. We are going to be doing phosaics, and if you don't know what phosaics are, it's fake mosaics, completely done on the iPad Pro in Procreate. And I know I have one here. Yes, right here. Here is one I did a while back. I have created a new brush set that has patterns. I call it pretty patterns. And so these are not available. I did make one similar to this one. But this particular background that I used is not available in my set. This was from somebody else. My brush set that I created mainly focuses on patterns, but I do have one specifically meant for phosaics, so it's just like a bonus, basically bonus brushes in that set. So we're going to use that to make phosaics, and if you have any other brushes that you would like to use for this, any pattern brushes that would work that you would like to use, feel free to do that. But for this tutorial, we're going to use ones that I have created. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get a square canvas set up, so that way you can share it on Instagram. And so I have a square set up for 2048 by 2048 pixels. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit. I have a free color palette that I included with the set, the brush set. So if you download the brush set, it will be included. I also have it free to my email subscribers, and it'll be in the blog post as well, so you can grab this color palette. It's all these colors. So this is the Pretty Patterns color palette that we're going to use, and our first color I'm going to use is this first one here, this red. And in my brush set, we're going to use this compass tile here. So this is the one that I've created specifically for us doing this phosaic, and there are other patterns in here. I have mermaid patterns, a magic watercolor stripe. I'll show you just a little bit. Like, so here's the magic, let me make this brush bigger. Magic watercolor stripe. It has different patterns and textures in there, and it changes colors, so it's pretty cool. I have a couple mermaid scale brushes. This one's a solid one, and I have a rainbow one that's similar to that, magic watercolor tiles. I have just the outlines, and I have other patterns too. I have a solar flare, which is like a sun pattern. I have abstract palm leaves. I have circles, and you can use these for your phosaics if you want as well, but the spacing is a little bit larger, so it doesn't work quite as well, because if you think about tiles and mosaics, the gaps between the stones are smaller, and that's like where our cement is going to be, and I'll get into that a little bit more as we go on through this. So we're going to select the compass tile, and the only two brushes you're going to need from my set for this is the compass tile and the tile brush. And the tile brush is what we're going to use for our lettering part, and again, I'll get to that later. So with our red selected, we're going to go ahead and we're going to brush on, oops. So if you accidentally pick up your brush, it's going to overlap and it's not going to look pretty. So an easy way to do this, if you pinch out all the way, just in case, because I've got cats, so sometimes I get cat hair on my iPad and it messes up the flow. And and then it kind of jumps like that. So this is a good way to do it. If you pinch out, or you know, pinch towards, so you can get it zoomed out and everything, and then get it covered. So you want this whole canvas covered in your pattern, and right now it just kind of looks like a bandana. So we're going to change that. We're going to change colors, so we can have multiple colors used, and this is the part that's going to take the longest. So this is a tutorial to do on a day when you've got nothing else to do. You've got a rainy day coming since it's springtime. This is a nice relaxing tutorial for that. Okay, so I'm going to pick this yellow color underneath our red, and again, feel free to use whatever colors you want. Get creative with it. This is your piece ultimately. All right, and I'm going to drag the color into the stars. I'm going to hit continue filling with recolor, and see this little crosshairs right here? That is where your recoloring is going to be, so you can drag it to wherever you want, but it just happened to land on another star, which is perfect. And so now, instead of having to drag from here every single time, now you can just tap on each section you want filled with that color, and this speeds up the process so much. It is very, 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 very helpful. Remember, 2-finger tap's your best friend. That'll undo. 3-finger tap redoes. So you're just gonna go in here, and we're gonna tap through each star. And this is the part where I said I'm gonna have to skip through some of the video, so we're not getting too lengthy when I get to some of these other colors and these other areas. Okay, so we have all our yellow stars in. Oops, I forgot a little spot there. Okay, and now I'm going to pick, I think I'm gonna do this purple here, the second one on the bottom here, and I am going to fill in right there. Okay. So I accidentally colored in that one purple because that was where my crosshairs was at last. I forgot about that, sorry. So what you can do is just go back to your yellow and refill that area. No big deal. Okay, sorry about that, guys. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to fill in these middle sections here. My recommendation for your initial color that you're gonna use is, if you're gonna use, like, see these little areas in here where it has all these little lines, if you pick the color that you want in there, so you don't have to go through each one because you have to zoom in and zoom out and go all around. Pick the main color you want for that when you initially lay down your pattern, and that will help you so much with future color filling. That way you don't have to worry about that. Okay. So I accidentally color filled that. I don't know when that happens. It, you know, with digital, it happens sometimes. The good thing is it's easy to fix. So if you don't remember what color you use, even though I do know, another shortcut you can do is press and hold, if it will let me. All right, so press and hold and drag it to that red. And now we can color fill that area back in. So now it's where it's supposed to be, and I undid that one. Okay. Oops, I did the wrong purple. I'm just gonna fill it like this. Okay. All right, so now we got our purples, we got our yellows. So next, what I think I'm gonna do is I'm going to do these little, they're almost heart-like shapes, like half hearts, and these little teardrops. I'm gonna do those the same color. So I'm gonna do this light pink here. It's kind of in the middle. So I'm going to drag and drop, and you don't want it in the outline, we just want it. See, this is where we're going to zoom in. Okay, so I want it just inside there. I'm going to do recolor, and I'm gonna skip ahead this part. I'm gonna fill in all the teardrops and all these little half hearts. So go ahead and do that, and I will meet you back here for the next color. Okay guys, so once you have your yellow stars and your teardrops and the little half hearts filled, next it's time to do our little lines here, like the in between these little squares. We're gonna do those every other color. So we're gonna do red, and I'm gonna pick, I think I'm gonna do this green in here. So if you zoom in, you can see, so we can do the green and the red every other. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do it on all of these every other areas. So this part's gonna take the longest. So go ahead and use the recolor option, and you can switch. My advice to you is, after you're done with your pink, is to drag, like, or just click your next area in here, then change your color. That way you don't have to recolor anything else, and because it's automatically going to stay in recolor until you click this magic wand to get out of that. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to recolor all of this just like we discussed, and then I will be back and we will move on to our next step, because we'll be done coloring our tiles and we will move on to getting the cement-like field between the cracks here on where all this white is. So we're going to get to that next. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully your piece is all colored in. I decided to also do these little green diamonds in the middle of all of the stars as well. So now the only spots that are the initial red is the circle and every other of the squares around the circle and on these diamonds. Again, use whatever colors you'd like. This is just what I'm doing for this tutorial. It's all your creativity, and that's what makes each piece unique, is how you choose to do your own piece. Okay, so next we're gonna do our cement-like texture. So we're gonna label this one. Let's go ahead and let's rename it. And I'm gonna name this one Tiles. I'm gonna add a new layer, and I'm gonna drag this layer 2 underneath. We can go ahead and rename it now, and we'll just label it Cement. All right, so for the color, I'm gonna pick this light blue here on the middle row. It's the second to last color. Let's see how that looks. And this is a free brush that comes with Procreate. We're gonna go to our textures, Kurawang, if that's how you pronounce it. And it's got a really nice texture. So you can see it's already kind of coloring in the background. If you zoom in, you can see there's some white in there, there's some graininess. So it's one of those, it's not completely noticeable at first, but you notice it. It just adds a little something to it. It's not solid color, it's not too much texture where it's distracting. And if you want to see what it looks like without, you can turn this layer off and it's kind of a cloudy look to it. There are a lot of great texture brushes out there, so you can use any texture brush you prefer. So we're going to do some lettering with my tile brush, and I'm going to turn off these 2 layers so they're not distracting us. I'm going to add a new layer at the very, very top, and I'm going to write out the word hello. So you could do welcome, you could do whatever. I'm thinking of this as oh, this could be in front of somebody's house, or it could be at an airport, like welcome wherever. That's why I have that one that says travel. Like, I think of having like these giant mosaic things in places like that. I've been to some airports where they have the really pretty tiles on the floor, and so, you know, it just reminds me of that. But do whatever you want. You don't even have to write anything. You can do an image. I've seen beach ones with seahorses and dolphins, and just let your imagination go wild. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna rename this one. I'm gonna rename this one Hello. Oops, I don't know if I could spell it right. It'd be great. Okay. All right, and then we're gonna go back to the Pretty Patterns brushes, and we're gonna use the tile brush. And for our color, I'm gonna use this really dark blue right here. And I'm just gonna do some nice cursive. I want to go down a little bit in size. Right now that's at 37. Let me try 20. Okay. And let's center this a bit. So let's get our arrow tool. I have uniform selected and snapping, and see this orange? We want it to be centered. I don't want it completely centered in the very middle of everything, because I have a bonus section I'm gonna show you. We're gonna add shoes to this piece so it looks like we're actually standing on the tiles. So I want some space so that we can have the shoes peeking out like that other piece that I had showed you. So we have plenty of space there on the bottom, but it's centered in the middle here. So that's great. So we'll just click out of that. Next, what we're gonna wanna do, there's a lot of tiles overlapping, and that can be a bit distracting, and it doesn't look quite right like tiles that we normally see. So I'm gonna go to the eraser. I'm in my lettering set right now, and I'm going to use my small round monoline. Actually, let me do my medium monoline, and I'm going to erase where they overlap, and it's gonna cut them so the tiles are gonna be kind of different shapes. And if you've ever seen any real mosaics, even stained glass, you can see like the pieces are small and big and oddly shaped to fit in, and that's what we want, especially for this lettering part. The tile part in the background is more set in stone, I guess you could say. So that one is a little different. All right, we don't want it that big. Let's see, let's move this down. So the medium brush is a little too big. I'm gonna use my small. Okay, I have my small brush and I have it set to about 23%. You might have to adjust your sizes of brushes to be different than what I have for mine, depending on the size of your canvas. So we're just gonna go through all of these, and we're gonna make sure that it's separate. We don't have any weird edges. So we're gonna go through only where they overlap here like this, and we're just gonna break them down, make some new shapes, and it's fun. It is. It's fun to you to create your own mosaic squares. So it looks cool to be able to give it some extra space in there. And it's okay if it has some rough edges. You can smooth it out if you want, but it looks more cut, if that makes sense. And do just, you know, different styles of your brush strokes, and to really give it some variation, you know. We don't want it to look too perfect. I know it's digital, so digital ends up looking pretty perfect a lot of the time, but we want it to look we want it to look more realistic, or as realistic as we can get at times with this. So we want it to kind of have that rough and rawness to it. So this part, it won't take you very long. As you can see, it's not taking me hardly any time at all to do all of this. And it's only in the parts where it's like really overlapping. Like this is our last letter here. And like I can even break this down even more. So it's 3 and you can break this down a little bit more. All right, so now we have our word hello. So I think that looks good. I like how that looks. If you really want, for time's sake and the purpose of this tutorial, I'm gonna leave it as is, but what you could do is you could go in and you could change shapes of a lot of these squares. So they're not all squares and they're different shapes like this. That's up to you. You can make them all squares if you want, and it's gonna take a lot more time. And you could do it with just a monoline and then just break it apart. I don't recommend doing that, but that's up to you. Again, it's your style. All right, so next what we're gonna do is we're gonna add a new layer. We're gonna drag it underneath our hello layer, and we're gonna rename this one outline. And here's the reason why we're gonna have an outline. Let's turn back on our tiles. This looks awful. You can't read it. It looks horrible. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It looks bad. So what we wanna do is we wanna have an outline so that it stands out away from the rest. You know, we want it to look good. We want it to be legible and not blend in too much of the background and not like an eyesore. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our, let's grab this bright teal down here. It's the third to last color. And make sure you still have your tile brush selected. And now I'm gonna go back up. I have it like 37. And we are going to, okay, that's too big. Let me go down a little bit. Let's see how 27 looks. That's good. So we want a variation on size, and we're gonna follow along the letters, and you don't have to do one continuous line. I'm gonna show you what, like some tricks we're gonna do in here. We wanna make this look like we got a nice little outline going. Actually, I don't like how that looks. Okay, so we'll go through and around. And I recommend, if you need some inspiration, Pinterest is your best friend. It really is. Pinterest has amazing inspiration. You can look at colors for like color inspiration. You can look at different styles of mosaics and fauxsaics. All right, so now we're gonna fill in these gaps here that we have. We could just tap our brush and tap one right in here. We'll fix this just like we did with our letters. What we're gonna do is we're gonna erase. We do not want them to overlap our dark blue, and we do not want them to overlap each other. We want it to look like actual tiles. So it's gonna be some work. Like I said, this is a more advanced tutorial. There's a lot involved in it, so it's gonna take patience and time, but it's fun, and the results are worth it in my opinion. So just hang in there, don't get frustrated. You can rewatch this video as many times as you want. It's the beauty of online, as long as you still have internet. So we're gonna go through all of this, and we're gonna do the same thing, kind of what we did with our letters, we're gonna get the eraser and we're gonna erase these parts that are overlapping because we don't want that overlap. So just go through each one and make sure you separate them, give them enough space. Because you want to make sure, we're going to do cement on this one as well, of course. So you want to make sure that cement's going to show up. So go ahead and erase all of that. I'm going to do the same and I'll be right back and I will show you the next steps. Okay, so now your piece should look roughly like this in terms of your hello and your outline. So we can go ahead and turn back on our tiles and our background. I know it's still not anything spectacular right now. It's still kind of hard to see. We're gonna fix that. So we'll go to our tiles layer. Let's add a new layer and we'll go ahead and we can rename this one Cement. Of course it doesn't do it. Cement 2. All right, centered. All right, I'll just leave it. I don't know why it's being done, but okay. Anyway, so we're gonna go to our brushes, and if you have my brush set, the HLA lettering brush set, we're gonna be using that. We're gonna do their monoline brush, and if we double tap up here, we'll get our white. And what we're gonna do is, I'm actually gonna get a bigger brush than this. Come on. All right, so let's get the large monoline brush, and we are going to just kind of trace, we're going to trace the outline of our letters. We want it kind of close to the edge. We don't want to go too far outside the edge because this is where our cement's gonna go. We're just gonna go like a little bit on the edge. Like I said, we don't want too much of a gap. So it'll start to look a little odd. So just kind of do an outline around your letters. You want to make sure you get all the tiles inside the white. You just want that thin white outline along the edge. I'm going kind of fast to show you. Obviously, when you do this, you know, take your time and really get it. You can always go in and erase too, if you need to. I'm just gonna go in here. We want these letters to stand out. We want to make it look like it's part of the tile. And this is a beginner phosaic class that I'm doing right now. There are more advanced ones where you can get really into it, and like as you could see from my other one, I don't know if you really paid attention with that one I showed you at the beginning of the video, where I had highlight and shadow on the tiles. That's even more advanced, and that's definitely something you can add to it. To add to this particular one, like those tiles that I used in that piece were a lot more simple. This is a little more complex with all the different shapes going on. So we're gonna just go ahead and fill that in. Now we got our white. Perfect. See, this stands out so much better, doesn't it? Okay. Now we're gonna add our cement texture, or cement. All right, so we're just gonna select it, and and we'll go ahead and let's pick that light blue again. Go into our brushes and the textures. And we still have the curl along. And we'll just go ahead and fill that in. All right, and then we can deselect. Done. Now, you can leave it like this. You can just say, I'm done with it. I don't want to have to do anything else to this. I'm happy with how this looks. That's fine. You can do that. I have no hard feelings if you do, because there's still more if you want to add shoes to this. So we'll go ahead and we'll just click on this top layer here. And what we're gonna do now, if you're interested in doing this next and pretty much final step, is we're gonna go to our wrench icon, go to add, and we're going to insert, oh, I'm sorry, wrong one. Insert a photo. So I have a couple photos that I'm providing for you in this tutorial that I found from Pexels. If you don't have access to a camera, and you don't have a picture of your own feet, it's pretty easy. The one that I showed you before, and the reason why I'm not using it again is because it's the same picture and I don't want to duplicate it, and I was lazy and I didn't take a picture, I'm being honest. I'm using a different one that I got from Pexels, but it's real easy. You just literally look down at your feet and take a picture. It's not hard. So we're gonna get this all the way across like this, and we are going to make sure it snaps to the bottom, and we can press our arrow tool, and we're gonna go to this little S ribbon right here, the select tool, freehand, and we are going to trace along. So carefully follow along the edge of the pants and the shoe. And you can pick up your pencil, it's okay. It'll remember. And just go all the way around. Get it as close as you can. And you're gonna really wanna try to take your time with this because you want it to look right. So and then we want to go off the canvas here to connect. We need to connect these two. It's pretty important, okay? This picture is kind of dark. Yeah, if you ever need any free photos to use for your artwork, for references, design work, there are great websites out there. Pexels is my favorite, pexels.com, P-E-X-L-E-S. They have great high quality photos like this that you can use. And obviously if you're gonna sell, or if you're using it for like a magazine or something, or just in general, it's good to give credit where credit's due. They do give you the photographer's name, so you can give the credit. I do not remember who this one was. I have it on my computer somewhere. I will have to look up to see who the credit was. I'm sorry. Can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, anytime you use an image that's not your own, it's always a good idea to give credit where credit is due. And brushes sometimes too. It's just nice. It's a courteous thing. All right, so we'll go ahead and we will connect that. Oh shoot, come on. There we go. All right, so now we want to copy and paste. So now, as you can see, if we turn off this layer, and we'll deselect, our shoes now are on a separate layer all by themselves. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? Okay, very last thing we're going to do is we're going to select, and we're going to do a new layer, drag it underneath. We're going to go here, double click on black, which is on the bottom here. So you double tap, it'll give you pure black. And then we're going to go to this layer here, tap on it while this other layer is still selected, fill layer. So now we have, if we turn off this, we've got our black from the shoes. So we're going to do our shadow. Make sure you have your shadow layer selected. You can rename this. I'm not going to rename it right now. Go to our magic wand tool. Let's do motion blur, and we're going to do layer, and I'm going to drag it out a little bit. Oops. All right, and then I'm going to move it to, I think I'm going to move it, I'm going to have the light source looks like from the shoes is kind of on the left there, so I'm gonna move it a little bit. So there we have our shadow. If you feel like it's too dark, if you do not know this trick already, if you haven't watched my other videos, go into your layers, click the N, and you can adjust it. You can also do multiply, which makes it just a little more realistic with the colors. That's it. That's the tutorial. I do have one more quick thing I wanted to show you regards to my new brushes, in case you are interested in purchasing them. I'm going to create a new layer here just so I can show you real quick. So with my brushes, if you are not happy with the size, let me just show you one thing you can do. So let's, for instance, we'll do the sun one, and we'll pick purple, and so that's huge. You can go down and you can make it smaller, but let's say this isn't small enough for you. If you tap on the brush and you're in grain, go to scale and you can shrink it down, or you can make it go bigger or whatever. And so you press done, and there you go. Now you have it smaller than it was before. So if you need to adjust it, go into the grain. If you feel like it's not big enough or small enough for you, don't freak out. There's always a way to fix it. There's always a solution. So I hope that was helpful. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and I know it was a long one. Thank you for hanging in there with me and completing it. I cannot wait to see what you do with my new brushes. I can't wait to see your phosaics. So please share with me on Instagram, share with me at blackrose613, and then use the hashtag Wonder Wednesday Projects. And if you want to share via email, if you're an email subscriber, you can reply to the email. I'd love to see your work. Facebook is coming soon. Sorry guys, I do not have it available yet. It is coming, I promise. If you have anything you want to see in regards to Facebook specifically, how you want me to present it, if you want sneak peeks at tutorials, brushes, whatever, just a community to share artwork, or both, let me know. Comment on this, like and subscribe. I hope to see your work. Thank you for following along.